It's your bandito Carlitos coming at you with not a breakdown, probably something very stupid, but hey, that's what this is all about. This is all about here. I told myself I wouldn't make this type of video. I wouldn't make the channel about me in any way, shape, or form. I would keep this about the athletes. Keep this about my favorite combat sports athletes that I think are being slept on, and people don't necessarily give the credit that they deserve. But my wife suggested that it would be a better idea if I made this video for you guys as opposed to subjecting her to this rant. Now, knife fight. Most people, like the general rule, like if you go through a YouTube rabbit hole for like knife fighting techniques, most of what you're gonna see is, people telling you that you should have this right here in, let's move this right here in like a hammer fist grip. This should be smacking around, doing stuff, grab, and you should just gut, That's not a bad idea. That's not a bad strategy, right? Combat Self-Defense, really cool channel I follow, made a video about like just kind of expressing this idea of transposing martial arts techniques or just striking techniques onto a knife, right? I thought this was super cool. Thought this was very cool. And I was thinking, this would be pretty cool to do with the lead hand. Now, again, most people say you should do this. I think the lead hand's a pretty good idea, right? Hands up, right? Right here, we can throw the jab, and you can throw the cross too. There's nothing that says that you can't throw a punch while you have a knife in your hand. Like, there's no rules, right? You could flick this out there, right? And then you can use like all the cool like vertical jab things that like you do with your jab also. Like, you could come in this way, right? You could drop the knife hand lower. You could have like a lower lead hand Sean O'Malley style and flick this out. I mean, the intention with these knife strikes, granted we're poking into the person that we're fighting in this situation, but like these stabs aren't necessarily gonna be like, life-ending stabs. These are more flicking stabs, you wanna just make nice little cuts, maybe preferably around the eyes, Ideally you wanna fuck with this person's ability to see. Ideally you want to make sure that like this person feels a level of pressure, so that they're like, they have cause to kind of rush in and then get stabbed some more, potentially, right? You can kind of do all kinds of cool shit. You can step back, cross, and then hook. Now, with the hook, super, super cool. Now, they say you're not supposed to do this sort of grip, right? But if we're not necessarily committing, if we're doing flicking, strikes, I feel like that's fine, But if we really want to stick that person, I think the hammer fist, there's a lot of validity to that. The hammer fist, I feel like it works really well when you're going from jab to hook. Bop, bop. And you have a longer hook too. This could, you can bring this out from super wide. I can bend the elbow for tighter hook. Bop, bop. I really like jab, body jab, left hook, and that seems fire with knife. Bop, bop, bop. Oh, ooh, see that? Ooh. Probably a good idea, like, because I almost just took my own eye out. That's probably not something you want to do to yourself when you're using a knife. Because I just went, ha. I guess so. I guess you could turn it this way, but like, that doesn't feel smart. What else? Yeah, we can also put this in the rear hand, right? Same, right? Same concept. Use the jab. Same thing. Cross, the nice poking from distance. And then for all the tight stuff like uppercuts, right? Right hooks, right? Rear body hook. You could even go Errol Spence Jr. You could go jab to the head, jab to the body, right hook, feels nice. Yeah, you can go slip. You could slip, pop, right there. I mean, those are life enders. You can't take too many of those. Now, my good friend Marvin Castell said I was ridiculous. He outright said I was ridiculous for thinking that this was effective, that this was a good idea, right? He's like, man, you ain't stabbing nobody like this. And it's like, you gotta get them like these. Now, that is nice. Holding hockey style and gutting that way is, I think, effective. But I also think if we're thinking about, like if you're thinking TJ Dillashaw, right? TJ Dillashaw right here, keep this nice and glued, right? We're playing around with the lead hand. Maybe we're throwing the left high kick, right? Overhands, you know, maybe we're switching stances, right? Any right hooks, you know, you kind of have something on the tail end of that fist that is a nice little slash. Again, when we're slashing the face, you know, you're just opening up a cut that you can later then touch. You don't necessarily need a whole lot of power, working in the same way that an elbow would, right? And now I just need to touch something and I have kind of like this accumulative damage. But in terms of like ending things, I think the Wing Chun style, like this kind of center line idea, I think works really well when we're like hammer fisting a knife this way. I feel like this is a really good idea for like hand traps, right? So ba, ha, ha. And then you can keep covering distance after the initial stab. You can grab again, ha, 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 right? Somebody might be covering up. Maybe this first stab doesn't get like perfectly in the neck, maybe kind of grazes like that or on the chest, and you're kind of trying to cycle through, right? Ha, ha. Right, you can, yeah, step into the opposite stance potentially, right? Right? And then you could repeat that process. I also think if you're in like, if you're like pressed up against like a wall or an obstacle or something like that, I think this is great, but I also think there's a lot of value to like turning this underhand, right? And then getting this here and then just like hugging them in. I feel like that's a great, especially if you're like digging into like solar plexus, diaphragm, you know, you can do the John Wick thing where he stabs his aorta or whatever that was, you know. But really cool idea. Like that whole sequence ends with and like him hugging Common on the subway, and he like just shoves that knife a lot deeper into like the chest there. I think that's a great idea. That's a great option, especially when we're kind of grappling and doing all this kind of stuff, looking for position. You can get that in there. And just really kind of make sure that that's deeper. You could push it maybe past the handle perhaps. But yeah, lots of options, lots of different things you could do. I think there's no reason why you shouldn't throw kicks. You shouldn't throw leg kicks, you know, pa, ha, hoo, bam, pa, 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 hoo, hoo, pa, pa. There's no reason why you can't do all of those things. I think just because you have a knife in your hand doesn't mean that you need to stop fighting. It's really just kind of the whole point of this video. But let me know your comments, your thoughts. What do you think? Is this bullshit? I don't know. Like, realistically, I have negative knife fighting experience. I feel like most of my experience is theoretical and what I've seen in YouTube videos and in movies. So, negative experience. But some of the stuff seems pretty cool. Some of the stuff seems like it would work. Let me know what you think. Peace!